Okay. IELTS letter writing. That is what we're going to be looking at today. IELTS letter writing is strictly for people who are taking IELTS general. Okay. So I want you to follow closely if you are taking IELTS general, whether you are taking IELTS general or you are taking IELTS UKVI general. This class is very important for you. But then, even if you are not taking IELTS general or you're not taking IELTS UKVI, you're going to learn from this class because I'm going to be talking, I'm going to be addressing issues that have to do with grammar. I'll be addressing issues that have to do with sentence construction. These are basic things that everybody should be familiar with. Okay, so I want you to follow closely. All right, now when we talk about letter writing, when we talk about IELTS letter writing, okay, what are the things that we need to keep in mind? What are the important things that we need to keep in mind? Number one is that word. You are going to do two things on the exam day. There are two tasks. Okay, there are two tasks to complete. The first one is called task one. For task one, you are going to write a letter. Okay, for task one, those who are doing IELTS general, if you are taking IELTS general, your task one is going to be a letter. Usually, that is the first thing that you will see on the exam day, task one for writing. The second thing that you will see is task two. That's an essay. But this is my advice. Don't start with the letter. You can always move to the second task and start with task two. It's allowed. You are permitted to do that. And that is more advisable. Why? For this very basic reason that what? Your task 2 carries more marks. Your task 2 accounts for 67% of your total score. So it's better to start with task 2 and make sure you do a thorough job for task 2 before you move to task 1. You have a total of 60 minutes for this writing. So the ideal thing is to spend 40 minutes on task 2 and then you spend 20 minutes on task 1. But you see, if you make the mistake of starting with task 1, there's no way you will not end up spending 40 minutes on task 1. That's the problem. And if you spend 40 minutes on task 1, or even if you're not 40 minutes, if you spend more than 20 minutes on task 1, just know that your task 2 will not be qualitative enough. Your task 2 will be poor. That's the problem because you don't have enough time for task 2. So it's better to start with task 2, write a qualitative essay for your task 2 before you now move to what? Task 1. Very, very important. So for your task 1, you are writing a letter. Your letter should not be less than 150 words. So you can write 150 words, you can write 160 words, you can write 170 words, you can write 200 words. Write as long as you want to write. Okay, just make sure you address what they ask you to address. And then that task 1 will account for 33% of your total score. Okay, keep that in mind. That's very, very important. So when it comes to letter writing, you need to understand that there are different types of letters. There are three major types of letters that you will probably come across. They can give you any of these three types of letters. The first one is called formal letter. The second one is called informal letter. And the third one is called semi-formal letter. So what is a formal letter? A formal letter basically is a letter that you write to a government official, an employer, a manager, your manager at work. So if you get an IELTS question that says, write a letter to the governor, or write a letter to the Minister of Education, or write a letter to the Director of Studies, or write a letter to your vice president, to your vice chancellor, or write a letter to your governor, to your deputy governor, to your local government chairman. Those are government officials. It's a formal letter. If the letter says write a letter to the director of a particular company, or write a letter to the customer care department, or they say write a letter to the marketing manager, that's a word, that's a formal letter. You understand now? So you are writing, a formal letter is known, all these three types of letters are known by who you write them to and the purpose for which you are writing them. So for a formal letter, you are writing it and sending it to a government official, an employer, or a manager. And the purpose is for what? Is for an official issue, something that's to do with official. Maybe you want to lodge a complaint, or you want to apply for a job, or you want to request for leave, something official, something that has to do with what? That has to do with official issues. Official issues can, I mean, you have a whole myriad of official issues. Okay, so formal letter, that's it. Number two is informal letter. This is a letter that you write to a friend. It's just as simple as that. You are writing the letter to a friend. And what is the purpose? Is it that you want to make an inquiry about something? You want to ask your friend about something? You want to request that your friend help you out with some things? A letter of request. You want to ask for advice. You want to seek counsel and advice, or you want to offer advice. Maybe your friend wrote a letter to you some times ago, and then now you want to reply your friend and offer advice. That also fits into, I've seen questions like that before. Or you want to invite your friend, maybe to an event. Or you could even write a letter to a friend to apologize. That's another type of informal letter. But the bottom line is that what an informal letter is a letter that we write to a friend, basically. And usually it's an amorous, most times it's amorous. There's an amorous tone to that kind of letter. Number three type of letter is called semi-formal letter. So this one is halfway between formal and informal. It's not so very serious. It's not, the tone of your semi-formal letter is not very serious like that of a formal letter. Yet it is not as friendly and as amorous as what you have in an informal letter. So it's in between. It's halfway between the two letters. Now, if a semi-formal letter is a letter that you write usually to your supervisor at work, or to your neighbor, okay, or maybe somebody that lives in your neighborhood. One of the things that you need to also, that you can also use to distinguish this letter is that what? For a formal letter, you cannot relate with that person on a first name basis. In fact, most times you don't even know the person. For formal letter, you don't know the person. You understand now? So that's another thing about formal letter. For an informal letter, you can relate to the person on a first name basis. You can call the person by their first name. They are your friend. You understand? For a semi-formal letter, even though you know the person, you prefer not to relate to the person on a first name basis. You want to keep things more regulated. You don't want to be too free with the person. You understand? So a semi-formal letter, you are not relating with the person on a first name basis. You are relating with them using their last name. So you are writing, it could be for an official purpose. For example, if you are writing to your supervisor at work, or it could be for a non-official purpose. Maybe if you are writing to your neighbor. Do you understand? So these are the three types of letters that we have: formal letter, informal letter, semi-formal letter. Somebody says, why is it important for us to be able to distinguish these letter types? It's important because the way you start a formal letter is different from the way you start a semi-formal letter. And it's different from the way you start an informal letter. Okay? The way you end a formal letter is different from the way you end a semi-formal letter, and it's different from the way you end a word, an informal letter. So the starts and the endings are different. The main bodies are what? They are different. These are things that you need to what? Keep in mind. So if you look at this here, we have examples of formal letters. You and your family are moving to another country for work, and you are looking to buy a house there. Where? In that country. Write a letter to a property agent. In your letter, number one, introduce yourself and your family. So I'm writing to a property agent. So I don't know the person. He's in another country. I probably saw that person's contact online. So you want to write a letter to the person. So you introduce yourself, you describe the type of accommodation that you hope to find, and give preference for the location of the accommodation. So in writing your letter, they're going to give you a background story, or we'll call it a prompt, a question prompt. So your job is to use that question prompt as a guide in writing your letter. Aside from the question prompt, you will now have some points that need to be addressed. So usually there will be 3 points, and you can see the 3 points here. So when writing your letter, make sure you address those 3 points. And those 3 points are to be addressed in the main body of your letter. I'm going to talk about that later on. So this is an example of a formal letter. I'm writing to a property agent or a property company in another country. Okay? Look at the second example. I'm writing a letter to a word, to the organizing committee. Look at it. You read an online advertisement calling for volunteers to help out at a charity fund run that will raise money for cancer research. And you are interested in volunteering. In other words, you want to volunteer for a run, for a race aimed at raising money for cancer research. So they said, write a letter to the organizing committee. In your letter, number one, explain why you would like to volunteer. So that must be addressed in the main body of your letter. Number two, ask what volunteers are required to do. And number three, give your contact details. This is another word. This is another formal letter. And then look at the third one. You and your friend ate a meal at a restaurant to celebrate a special occasion, and you are extremely dissatisfied with the experience. Write a letter to the restaurant manager. In your letter, so you are writing with two. You are writing to the restaurant manager. So you see that all these letters that we have here, they are to what? Individuals who are in official positions, positions of authority, positions of control. Okay? This one says, explain the reason for the celebration, give details of your visit to the restaurant, and say what you would like the restaurant to do. In other words, it's more like you are presenting a complaint. Okay? So these are examples of what? Formal letters, right? Now let's look at another type of letter. The second type of letter is what we call informal letter. These are examples of informal letters. Okay, hope you guys are with me. Let me know who is following me. If you are following me, let me see your message in the Zoom chat. Let me know. Let me see who is following me. If you are following me, just type, yes, I am with you. Yes, I am with you. Let me know who is following me. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that feedback. That's very good. So we have informal letters. These are letters, like I said earlier on, that you write to your friend. Okay? Your friend. So they are going to say it clearly. You will see it at the beginning of the letter, just like you are saying here now. Write a letter to your friend. Write a letter to your friend. Write a letter to your friend. That one is very easy to figure out informal letter. Anytime you see write a letter to your friend, just know that you are writing a word. You are writing an informal letter. Now, let me say this, that sometimes they will tell you to write a letter to your friend's parents. I've seen that question before. Write a letter to your friend's parents. That's not an informal letter. That is a semi-formal letter. So you can't treat your friend's parents like your friend. The way you interact with your friend's parents is completely different from how you interact with your friend. So a letter to your friend's parents is going to be a word. It's going to be a semi-formal letter. Same thing with a letter to your parents' friend, maybe to your daddy's friend or your mommy's friend. Okay, your father's friend or the friend of your mother. That's going to be a word, a semi-formal letter. It's not formal, it's not informal, it's just in between. Okay, so look at the examples here. You have learned that a foreign friend, can you see that? Foreign friend plans to live and work in your country for how many months? 6 months. Write a letter to your friend. In your letter, tell him or her how you learned of his plan. Suggest a place for him or her to live. Describe how he or she can find a job. So these things must be dealt with in the main body of your letter. You're going to see 3 bullets that must be dealt with. Okay, look at the second one. You are planning a dinner party where you intend to serve a traditional dish from your foreign friend's country. Maybe you have a friend from China, and then you want to organize a party and you want to serve Chinese rice. That's what they are talking about here. A traditional dish from your foreign friend's country. Write a letter to your friend. In your letter, say why you are planning the party. Number 2, explain why you intend to serve this dish. Number 3, invite him or her to the party. In other words, invite that your friend to the party. All these 3 things must be done in the letter. And then look at the last example. A friend of yours is thinking of going on a camping holiday for the first time this summer. He or she has asked for your advice. Can you remember what I said earlier on that word? Sometimes a letter to your friend can be a letter that is offering advice. So your friend is asking you for advice. So your job is to advise your friend in that letter. So look at the point. Explain why you think your friend will enjoy a camping holiday. Describe some possible disadvantages and say whether you would like to go camping with your friend or not and explain why. So advice, in writing your advice, you are explaining why, you are describing the disadvantages. Okay, and then tell why you would like to go or you would not like to go and give what? Give reasons. So these are what examples of semi-formal letter. And then the third type of letter is what we call, sorry, these are examples of informal letters. These ones I just finished now. These are informal letters. Then here we have semi-formal letters. What are semi-formal letters? Look at it. You are working for a company. You need to take some time off work and you want to ask your manager about this. So a letter to your manager is a word, is a semi-formal letter. So in your letter, explain why you want to take time off work, give details of the amount of time you need, and suggest how your work would be covered when you are away. Can you see that? Three things that must be addressed. And who are we writing to? Our manager. Can you see it's an official thing? Here, this one here is a kind of official thing. But because you're manager, you have some kind of, um, friendly relationship with him, but at the same time, it's still official. So a letter to your manager, to your supervisor at work is usually regarded as a word, a semi-formal letter. So people will treat it as formal letter, but it is definitely not a word. It's definitely not an informal letter. Look at the next one. Your colleague wrote to ask you if you can cover their work and finish while they are on holiday. Write a letter to your colleague telling him or her that you are unable to take the work. So you are a letter to your colleague. That's your work colleague. Can you say cover their work? So this is a semi-formal letter too. Tell him or her you cannot take the work. Explain why you cannot take the work. Okay? And suggest solutions for your what? For your colleague. So these are points that need to be what? That need to be dealt with when writing your word, when writing your letter. And then look at the last example. You have been living in a rental apartment. Okay? You have been living in a what? In a rental apartment for the past year. Recently, a new neighbor moved in who has loud parties several times a week. Wahala. In Nigeria, we say wahala. Your neighbor moved in who has loud parties several times a week. Write a letter to your landlord. Landlord, letter to your landlord. That's a semi-formal letter. Explain the situation and describe why it bothers you. That's number two. Number three, suggest a solution. So, semi-formal letter. I hope you guys are getting the point. Now, having outlined the different types of letters, let me now show you how to start your letter, the main body of your letter, and how to close your letter. That's what I want to address next. Let me start with the start of your letter. How do we start our letter? What is the first thing that we put in our letter? Usually in IELTS, they are going to write something like this. Start as follows. They will write it there. They will tell you how to start. Start as follows. So what you will notice is that there's no need for address. Number 52, Aso Rock Villa, Abuja, Nigeria. No, we don't need address. Whether you are writing a formal letter, informal letter, or semi-formal letter, address is unnecessary. Don't bother about the address. IELTS examiners will tell you exactly how to start, and they don't put address there. They'll just tell you, dear XYZ. So if I'm starting my letter with dear XYZ, that means I don't need address. From our knowledge of writing letters from our high school days, usually there's address. After address, you now write dear XYZ, and then you go on with your letter. So, but IELTS is saying, don't bother about address. So you just go straight and say, dear XYZ. So if it's a formal letter, you start with what? Dear sir / madam. That's option one. Option two is to write something like this. To whom it may concern. Now, this one is usually not, I wouldn't advise that you use this one because I'm yet to see a question that fits in with this particular thing. To whom it may concern basically is something that you write to someone. Okay, this is the scenario of to whom it may concern. You are faced with a situation, and then you need to write a letter that will be presented to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 individuals that occupy different offices. Okay? And you cannot be writing dear, maybe dear managing director, dear accountant, dear auditor, you can't write all those things. So the best thing is to do what? To whom it may concern. That kind of scenario is not very common. I've not yet seen it in IELTS letter writing. So it's better to just do dear sir / madam. Okay? So they are going to tell you specifically who you are writing to, the role of that person in the organization. So it's just better to do what? Dear sir / madam. That's how you start your formal letter. Okay? This is the recommended one. The second one is informal. For informal letter, just write your friend's name. Dear John, dear Anita, dear Ahmed, dear Treasure, dear Karen, okay? Dear Rita, dear Thomas. Just put your friend's first name. That's how to start your informal letter. And then for semi-formal letter, start with the person's last name and put a title before the last name. Dear Mr. Thomas, okay? Dear Mr. Baron, dear Mr. Williams, dear Dr. Charles, dear Miss Alice, dear Engineer Bemi. Okay? So semi-formal letter, you start out with the person's last name and then you put their appropriate title in front of that name. Somebody says, how do I know my friend's name? You can just pick any name that comes to your head. Use any name you like. Somebody says, how do I know my neighbor's name? You can pick any name you like. Pick any name you like. Now, I want you to notice that at the end of all these starting words, starting phrases, there is a comma. Dear sir / madam, comma. To whom it may concern, comma. Dear John, comma. Dear Anita, comma. Dear Ahmed, comma. Dear Mr. Thomas, comma. Dear Miss Alice, comma. That punctuation is extremely important. Okay? So the start of your letter must be what? Must be top notch. If the start of your letter is not qualitative, you're going to lose marks. So please take note of that. Now, the second part is the main body of our letter. So our letter has 3 parts: the start of the letter, the main body of the letter, and the closing of the letter. So for the main body of your letter, if it's a formal letter, what should you do? Number 1 is to what? Introduce yourself briefly. You should introduce yourself. Tell the person who you are. I am a customer. I am a tenant at your apartment in XYZ, whatever. Mention the address. I am a customer of your company and I've been something. Right? Introduce yourself. The person who is reading your letter needs to have an idea of who you are. Okay? So you start the main body of your letter with a brief introduction of yourself, or you clearly state your purpose of writing. So the first sentence of the main body of a letter, if it's a formal letter, should either contain a statement of introduction mentioning your name and how you are connected to that person receiving the letter, or you state the purpose of writing the letter. The third option is that you can do both. You introduce yourself and you state the purpose. That's for formal letter. All right. So the first thing you do is to what? Introduce yourself and state the purpose for writing. The second thing in the main body is to what? Address the main issues in the question prompt. Okay. So let's look at one of the questions that I showed earlier on. Look at this formal letter now. Look at this one in the middle. You read an online advertisement calling for volunteers to help out at a charity-run fund that will raise money for cancer research, and you are interested in volunteering. Write a letter to the organizing committee. So my letter here goes to the word to the organizing committee. So is either I say dear sir / madam, okay, and then I will now go straight into the main body. So in the main body, how will I introduce myself? Remember what I said earlier on that word. In starting your formal letter, you introduce yourself and state the purpose. So I will just say that word, okay, dear sir / madam, my name is Tosin Gbadebo. and I came across an online advertisement calling for volunteers that would help out at the upcoming charity fun run for cancer research. I am writing to indicate my interest, okay? Or I am writing to indicate that I want to volunteer. Do you understand? You are stating the purpose. We are going to look at examples very soon, don't worry. Somebody saying, are you not going to show us example? Don't worry, I'll show you examples. Okay? I'm just using this to show you the issue of what? How to start the main body of your word, of your letter. Okay? So our letter starts with the word with dear sir / madam, and then you clearly introduce yourself, or you state the purpose, or you do both. And then after that, you now address the main issues. So you address the issue in bullet 1, you address the issue in bullet 2, you address the issue in bullet 3. That's what we mean by what? Address the main issues. So what this is, what do you mean by bullet? All these things here. Bullet 1 is explain why you would like to volunteer. That's bullet 1. You write about that in the main body. Bullet 2, ask what the volunteers are required to do. You write about that in the main body. Give your contact details. You write about that in the main body. So these are the things I'm calling bullet. These are the things you go into after introducing yourself. Okay? Now, what if we have a semi-formal letter? How do we write the main body for our semi-formal letter? Number 1, state your purpose for writing. Okay? Clearly state your word, clearly state your purpose for writing. In some cases, you can actually introduce yourself. You're going to see one example very soon. In some cases, you can introduce yourself. If the person is not really familiar with you, it's okay to introduce yourself. But if the person is familiar with you, maybe your friends, maybe another example is your daughter's teacher in school. IELTS sometimes can ask you to write a letter to your teacher, to your daughter's teacher, your daughter's school teacher. The person knows you. You know the person. So you don't really need to introduce yourself. You understand now? But let's assume that you have just moved to a new area now, and then you want to write a letter to one of your neighbors that you have not met. Ideally, you should introduce yourself. Hope you get this one is just basic logic. But then I just said let me mention it. So sometimes you can introduce yourself. Sometimes introducing yourself is unnecessary. So by the time you read the question prompt, you will know whether or not to introduce yourself. So after introducing yourself, you state the purpose for writing, and then you address the main issues presented in the question prompt. All those bullets, bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3, address those issues. And then number 3, semi-formal letter. How do we do the main body? To start the main body of your semi-formal letter, introduction is absolutely unnecessary. You don't need to be introducing yourself to your friend. So how do we start? It's best to start by appreciating your friend. Okay, so the first sentence of your letter should be a statement of appreciation. Just think of something that you can appreciate your friend for, something that they did for you. Okay, exchange pleasantries. Okay, mention something briefly that you did, a fun activity that the two of you engaged in sometimes past. So start with some kind of word, appreciation or exchange of pleasantries. And then number 2 is what? Address the main issue raised in the question prompt. That's your word, the main body of your semi-formal letter. Sorry, of your now there's a mistake here that I need to point out. Sorry about this. I'm just saying this now. This place where I wrote here, informal letter. This one should be what? This one should be semi-formal. This one should be semi-formal letter, not informal. And then the last one here is what? The last one here is what? Is informal, because you're writing to your friend. Informal. Please take note of that. This is an oversight. I'm sorry about that. So this last one is informal letter. And then the one in the middle is what? Semi-formal letter. Okay? Now, let's look at the last part of our letter, which is the word, which is the closing. How do we close our letter? To close our letter, for a formal letter, you write yours faithfully. You can see how it's written here. So, ladies and gentlemen, formal letter, you end with what? Yours faithfully. Put comma, and then you put your full name, Ruth Takang. Okay? Same thing for semi-formal letter, but for semi-formal letter, it's better to use sincerely, yours sincerely, comma, then next line, Ruth Takang. For informal letter, is your friend. Just write kind regards, comma, Ruth, your first name. Warm wishes, comma, Benjamin. That's it. So take note of how to end your letter, how to close your letter. So these are the things that will help you to ensure that you get a good score when the examiners start assessing your essay. Now, how will they assess your essay? Sorry, how will they assess your letter? That is the next thing we need to ask ourselves. How will our letter be assessed? There are 4 criteria. I talked about this when we were teaching the class on essay writing. Those same criteria will be applied here. Task achievement. So for task achievement, they are going to check the word limit. If your letter is fewer than 150 words, you will lose marks. Your letter must not be less than 150 words. You should write more than 150 words. That's part of task achievement. Number 2, you must start your letter and end your letter appropriately. And you can see that I've taken the time to show you how to start dear XYZ, how to start, and I've shown you how to end your letter. Number 3 thing to ensure that you get a high ranking or a high rating when it comes to task achievement is that you should address all the main issues raised in the question prompt. All those bullet points, you must address everything. Nothing must be left behind. Okay, if you do all those things, then you can be sure that your task achievement score will be what? Will be high. You can get as high as band 8, band 8.5 or band 9 in terms of task achievement. The second criterion is called cohesion. Cohesion. I hope you guys are with me. Let me know if you are following me. Let me know if you are hearing me. Let me see. Let me pause a little bit and see who is following me. If you are following me, if you are hearing me, if you are still with me, let me see your message. Just drop a message in the Zoom chat. Let me know if you are still with me. All right. Thank you very much. Very good. Very good. Very good. So the second criterion is called cohesion. How do we demonstrate cohesion? Number 1, we must demonstrate clear paragraphing. In other words, after writing a paragraph, skip a line before you write another paragraph, before you write the next paragraph. You demonstrate clear paragraphing. Okay? You're going to see examples very soon. Number 2 way to get a good score with cohesion is what? Use cohesive tools and conjunctions correctly. Conjunctions must be used correctly. You understand? Conjunctions like in addition, however, moreover. These are conjunctions that you must use correctly. And number 3 point is that word, ensure that each paragraph contains 2 or more sentences. That's very, very important. Okay? Criterion number 3 is called grammar. Grammar. So what do we mean by grammar? Grammar basically has to do with your sentence construction. So for you to get a good score with grammar, you must write variety of sentences. You must use variety of sentence structures. Very, very important. You must use what? You must use variety of sentence structures. We have 4 major types of sentence structures. Okay? We have simple sentences. We have compound sentences. We have complex sentences. And we have compound complex sentences. All these 4 types of sentences should show up in your letter. All these 4 types of sentences should show up in your essay. You're going to see me when I show you examples very soon of all those sentence types. So that's part of grammar. Okay? The second component of grammar is punctuation. You must punctuate correctly. What are the punctuations that we must use? Full stop or period, comma, semicolon, and colon. All these punctuations must be used correctly when writing your word, your letter. If you use them correctly, you can be sure that you get a good grammar score. Number three, use the right tenses. Present tense, past tense, future tense, present perfect, past perfect. Okay? Tenses must be used correctly. Singular plural words must be spelled correctly. You must write singular and plural words when you should write them. Okay? Subject verb agreement rules must be applied. Prepositions must be used correctly. Those are other grammar rules that are not here. You understand? So your grammar must be top notch. Your grammar accounts for 25% of your total score in writing. Cohesion accounts for 25% of your total score. Task achievement accounts for 25% of your total score. Same with vocabulary, criteria number 4. Vocabulary accounts for 25%. So you see that all these criteria are equally important. They are equally, they all carry the same, they all carry the same weight. Okay? Vocabulary talks about spelling. You must spell correctly. Okay? Proper nouns must be spelled correctly. Proper nouns refers to names of individuals, names of organizations. If you want to write your name in a letter, you cannot start writing your name with a small letter. It is wrong. You are going to lose marks if you do that. Those are basic things you need to keep in mind. Your name is a proper noun, so you need to start it with a capital letter. Okay? Use the correct words in writing your letter. Don't use words out of context. Don't use words because you just heard it somewhere and then you feel like you're showing yourself to the examiner. No. If you don't know the meaning of a word, don't bother using it. Otherwise, you might end up losing marks. You might use it out of context and you will lose marks. Okay, so these are things that have to do with what? That have to do with vocabulary. All right. So now let's look at some letter examples. I'm going to take you through about 3 or 4 examples. All right. Formal, informal, and semi-formal. So look at this first example here. It says that what? You missed an international flight due to a problem at the airport. So that is the question prompt. That is the story that serves as a background for the task that they will give us. You missed an international flight due to a problem at the airport. Write a letter to the airline. In your letter, describe what happened that caused you to miss your flight. Number 2, explain how missing your flight impacted you. Number 3, clearly state what you would like the airline to do. Look at the bottom. Write at least 150 words. You do not need to write any addresses. Can you see I told you earlier on? This is exactly how the stuff will show up on the exam day. You don't need to write any address. They will tell you how to start. Begin your letter as follows. Dear sir or madam. And you can see there. That's how the writer started. Dear sir / madam, comma. My name is Fred Ola. Can you see this is a word? The person is introducing himself. And I am a regular customer of your airline, comma, Air Peace. Can you see proper now? Air Peace. This is the name of a business organization. Notice I did not capitalize airline. Airline is a common noun, so you don't need to put it as capital. But the name of a particular airline is a proper noun, so we are going to put it in capital. Air Peace. Okay? Next sentence. Now, this first sentence here is an example of what we call a compound sentence. Two independent clauses are connected together by what? They are connected by a conjunction called and. It's a compound sentence here. Now, next sentence. I am writing this letter to express my displeasure regarding a flight that I booked with your airline recently, but which I could not join because of the negligence of your check-in personnel at the departure lounge of the airport. This here is an example of what we call compound complex sentence. It contains 3 clauses. Okay, so you see that all those sentence types are showing up, and you are seeing appropriate punctuation, comma before but. We usually put comma before but whenever the but is connecting two compound sentences, two compound clauses, two independent clauses. Independent is the word I was looking for. Two independent clauses. Now, look at the next part. You can see that there's space. I've written 2 sentences here. Now there's space, and then I move to the next sentence. I was scheduled to be on the 11 a.m. Air Peace flight from Lagos to what? Abuja on Thursday, 7th October 2023. When I got to the departure lounge of Lagos Airport that day around 10 a.m., I was told by one of your attendants that the official that would check me in was not on seat. I was dumbfounded. Can you see? This is a C2 word, high level vocabulary. The another word for dumbfounded, let me ask. Who can give me another word for dumbfounded? I want you to type in the chat box. Give me another word for dumbfounded. Dumbfounded. I was dumbfounded. What does it mean? Anybody? What does it mean to be dumbfounded? Dumbfounded. I was speechless. Thank you. Yes, we can write speechless. Another thing you can say is that I was shocked to the bones. I was shocked. I was shocked to the bones. All right. So, there's something else I want to point out here. When I was talking about vocabulary earlier on, this part where they wrote, one of the things about vocabulary is you should also use theme-specific words. Theme-specific words. Now look at this letter here. This word here, the official that will check me in. This is a word that has to do with airports. It has to do with air travel. This letter is about missing a flight. So check me in is a theme-specific word that has to do with air travel. That's part of vocabulary. When they say things like this, you get a chance, you get a good score, you get a good rating. +1 for you. Check me in. Okay? Dumbfounded too is another good word here. It is a C2 word that expresses a word to express shock. Now, next sentence. I had to wait for more than 25 minutes. And by the time she arrived, she told me that the flight had left. Can you see that? I immediately placed a call to the customer care department to lodge a complaint. Full stop. Next sentence. Missing this flight cost me a valuable business deal, and I blame your organization and officials for that. So you see that he has done bullet 1. Describe what happened that caused you to miss your flight. Number 2, explain how missing your flight impacted you. Now he's about to talk about how it impacted him. He has already even mentioned it in the first sentence. He lost a valuable business deal. Next sentence, I have resolved to never fly with earpiece again. Semicolon. The only way for you to change my mind on this issue is for you to refund my flight ticket and write a letter of apology to me. Look at it. Last bullet. Write clearly or clearly state what you would like the airline to do. So what you want them to do is what? Refund your flight tickets and what? Write a letter of apology. I await a response from you. Yours faithfully, Fred Ola. That's it. Yours faithfully, comma, and then he puts his full name. Can you see that? Formal letter. Very straightforward. All the points have been dealt with. Good sentence construction. Okay? And then you can see clear paragraphing. All right? Let's look at another type of letter. Let's look at another type of letter. So here we have, this is a kind of semi-formal letter. You can see that at the bottom here, semi-formal letter. So here they said that what? You are due to move into a rented apartment next week, but you will not be able to move due to an unexpected problem. Write a letter to the property manager. In your letter, number 1, explain the situation. Number 2, describe your problem. Number 3, tell him or her when you think you can move in. So let's look at it. Dear Mr. Maxwell, can you see a good start? The person starts by stating the last name of the recipient. Last name, and then he puts an appropriate title. Dear Mr. Maxwell, comma, I am writing this letter to inform you about an unexpected situation that came up over the weekend. So this person did not introduce himself. The person knows him already. You are due to move into the apartment. So the person has met you, the person knows you. Okay? So you don't need to introduce yourself here. I will not be able to move into the apartment at Anthony Street until July. Recall that I informed you during our meeting that I am an events organizer and I travel a lot. There is an event that I bid for earlier in the year, and the event is scheduled to hold in July. Full stop. I met with the organizers earlier this week and I was informed that they would send me a mail before the end of the week about their final decision. I got a response last night and it was favorable. Thus, I will be traveling to Calabar very early tomorrow morning to start the project. Can you see that? He has explained the situation. Now he wants to describe I think he has even described the problem, why he cannot move into the apartment. Now, the project will run for about 6 days and I will need to be on ground to monitor things throughout. I will be there until the second week of July. So I won't be able to move into the apartment at the moment. However, now look at the last thing. He has already mentioned when he thinks he can move in. He has mentioned it, second week in July. Okay? Now look at how he closes the main body. However, I would like to keep the place reserved for me until I come back to Lagos. I should be back by July 23rd and I will be able to move into the apartment the following day, July 24th. I look forward to meeting you when I get back. Yours sincerely, Golden Treasure. Very straightforward. He puts his name and then he ends with yours sincerely and then he puts his name. So can you see all the points have been dealt with in writing, in presenting the ideas, in presenting this letter? Let's look at another example, informal letter. So Rita is writing to Han here. Let's look at the question. You are planning a dinner party where you intend to serve a traditional dish from your foreign friend's country. Write a letter to your friend. In your letter, say why you are planning the party, explain why you intend to serve this dish, invite him or her to the party. So look at the letter, Dear Anne. So it starts with the person's name, with our friend's name, Han. And you see it's capital A. Thank you for the beautiful blue gown. Can you see what I said earlier on? Start with a kind of appreciation. Think of something to appreciate. Okay? Fabricate something. So thank you for the beautiful blue gown that you sent me last week as my birthday gift. That was so thoughtful of you, and I promise to take a few pictures with them and send them to you before the end of the month. So you see, this whole paragraph 1 is about what? Exchange of pleasantries. It's about exchange of pleasantries. Now look at the next paragraph. As part of my birthday, I am planning a small party and I have invited a couple of friends and relatives, and I intend to give them a special treat. I want to cook the traditional Colombian pasto burrito that we enjoyed when we were in Colombia. I want to cook this because it will be an opportunity for me to showcase some of the skills that I developed when I traveled. Can you see that? Explain why you intend to serve this dish. Can you see has given the reason? To showcase some of the skills that she developed when she traveled. During the party, I will also announce my intention to launch my restaurant very soon. This will help me gain the support of those who will be at the event and some of their close contacts and friends. Okay, next paragraph. I would really love to have you at the party. Remember that you encouraged me to consider taking up cooking professionally. Here I am rising up to your challenge and having you around would be a great push. What is he doing here? Bullet number 3, invite him or her to the party. So you see that? Here I am rising up to your challenge and I'm having you around would be a great, push. So do make out time to come around. I look forward to seeing you. This last sentence here is an example of what we call a simple sentence. Do make out time to come. I look forward to seeing you. Those are simple sentences. Cheers, Rita. Cheers. That's a good way to end your word, to end your informal letter. Okay? Then, so I've shown you examples of different letters. Okay? Examples of different letters. Now, what I want to do now, I want to show you two letters. Okay? I want to show you two letters. And I want you to look closely at the two letters. So this is the first letter. Okay? And then this is the second letter. Okay? Two letters here. And I want you to tell me, which one do you think will get a high band score? I want you to look at the two letters closely. And I want you to tell me, which one do you think will get a high band score? I want you to look at this letter. Let's look at this one first. All of you. Look at this one first and tell me. I want you to give this letter a band score. Okay? Give this letter a band score. Read it carefully, everybody. And then when you have read through it, just give a band score to it. Give it a band score. My name is Charles Owokedi, and I'm writing you because I like music very much, and I want to be inside your club for many reasons. I am also living not far from the club, so it will be easy for me to come quickly if something is happening in the night or maybe afternoon. So this one is, you are writing a letter to, you are looking for a part-time job at a music club. Write a letter to the manager of the music club. In your letter, introduce yourself, explain what experience and skills you have. Tell him when you think you could start. So, what band score would you give this letter, ladies and gentlemen? Let me know. Anybody? What band score would you give this letter? This letter that you are seeing on the screen. Let me chill. Let me wait a little bit for some response. And then we're going to look at the other one, the other example. So I'm waiting. Oh, what band score? I have some experience, but not very long one. I worked before in a small restaurant where I helping people to find their seats and cleaning the tables. Also, I am playing drum a little, but I am not very good. But I think I can improve if I try harder because music is very important in the world today. So everybody should learn it with passion. And I also know how to use computer, but sometimes it is difficult for me because the mouse is not always moving correctly. About when I can start, I am not sure completely. Maybe next month or maybe earlier if my uncle travel to Abuja like he is planning. Because if he go there, I can stay in his house and it will give me more time to focus. Also, I need to finish one online course about baking bread, which I started last week, but I didn't finish because the internet was going off. I hope I can understanding my interest and I waiting to hear from you soon. Kind regards, Charles Nwokwedi. So, ladies and gentlemen, what score would you give this letter? Somebody says band 4. Hey, this person must be a very strict examiner. Band 4. Okay, now. Band 4.0. Okay, all right. All right, let's look at the other letter now. Let's look at the other letter. Another person says band 6 for this letter. Okay, now. All right. All right, let's look at this second one. I want you to look at this second one closely. Let's read through it. It's the same question. The questions are not different. It's the same question. Look at it. Dear Sir slash Ma, I am writing to inquire about the possibility of joining your club as a part-time staff member. I have been a regular visitor at Rhythm House Music Club for nearly 2 years, and I have always admired the professional yet welcoming atmosphere your team creates. I believe I would be a valuable addition to your staff. For the past 3 years, I have worked as an assistant sound technician at Galaxy Studios, where I helped set up audio equipment, monitored sound levels during live performances, and troubleshoot technical issues under pressure. In addition, can you see cohesion? What score are you going to give this one? In addition, I am a trained keyboardist with experience performing in small bands, which allows me to communicate effectively with musicians and understand their on-stage needs. I am also highly organized, customer-oriented, and comfortable working in fast-paced environment, especially during weekend events. If accepted, I would be able to start as early as next Monday as I have recently completed my freelance commitments and can adjust my schedule to meet the club's requirements. I am available every evening from 5 p.m. onwards, as well as all day on weekends. Thank you so much for considering my application. I would be delighted to provide any further information or attend an interview at your convenience. Full stop. Yours faithfully, Charles Nwokwedi. So what score would you give this second letter, ladies and gentlemen? What score would you give this second letter? Okay, what score? Somebody says band 6. For this second letter, why would you give this person band 6? And you gave the other person band, what did you give the other person now? No, now, band 6 is not possible. I'll give this kind of person band 8.5, Seth. Maybe band 8 or band 8.5. This is a very qualitative letter. Very, very qualitative. Why? Number one, the person addresses all the bullets. So the person's task achievement score will be high, maybe 8.5 or 9. This letter is more than 150 words. So I don't see why the task achievement score will not enter 8.5. Okay? Somebody says no introduction. Remember what I said about formal letter. This is a formal letter. Okay? You are either to introduce yourself, or if you remember, I said, or you write the purpose for writing, or you do both. Any of the three. This person clearly wrote the purpose. I am writing to inquire about the possibility of joining your club. That's my purpose of writing. He even introduced himself. I have been a regular customer. That's the introduction. That's the introduction. A regular visitor. A regular visitor for nearly 2 years. So most likely they know him. For him to have been a regular visitor, they know him. Okay? So so this is well introduced. It starts well, dear sir slash ma, compared to the other one where the guy just wrote, let's look at that other one. The other one where the guy just said, dear Mr. Ahmed. This is what you do for a word, for a semi-formal letter. And then you put a comma. He did not put comma. My name is Charles Nwokwedi. See the way he wrote his second name, his last name, small n, wrong. You start your name with capital letter N. Okay? And I'm writing to you because I like music very much. Who wants to hire you because you like music? That's on clear purpose. And I want to be inside your club for many reasons. Inside my club for as what? What do you want to be doing inside my club? This person not clearly states his purpose. Do you get it? So the difference is very, very clear in terms of how this person started his letter, in terms of the main body. So many mistakes here. Grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes. There's one spelling mistake I saw. Let me see. Where is it now? I saw one spelling mistake when I was reading it the other time. See, I am not sure completely. Can you see spelling mistake here? So many spelling mistakes. So many spelling mistakes here. All those things will affect vocabulary. You have grammar mistakes too. Look at it now. For example, look at this one here now. I hope you can understanding my interest, and I waiting to hear from you soon. Grammar mistake. I hope you understand my interest, and I hope. So you don't need to, put hope again because you already wrote hope. So you can say, and I look forward to hear from you soon, or I look forward to hearing from you soon. That's a better way to put it. So this one is poor quality letter. And these are mistakes you need to avoid. Look at the qualitative letter. Rhythm House Music Club. Everything capital letter. Proper nouns. Galaxy Studios. Everything capital letter G, capital letter S. Proper noun. These are things you need to keep in mind when writing your letter. I hope you get my point, ladies and gentlemen. So letter writing is very, very straightforward. And these are things that you need to practice writing letters like this. And over time, you're going to improve. Hope you get my point. So let me take one or two questions before we round up. Let me take one or two. If you have any question, just drop your question in the Zoom chat. Drop your question. Let me just take one or two questions. Somebody says, can we use yours sincerely for formal letter? Yes, you can use yours sincerely. It's okay. Another person says, can a sentence begin with because? I don't know. I can't answer this question because if I say yes now, everybody will start writing because all the time for anything. So I wouldn't start a letter with because. I wouldn't start a sentence with because. Sometimes you can, but not always. I don't want to have that in my mind that I can do it because most times it's actually wrong. Most times. So it's better to not even bother using it. Start another way. Put that because clause, put it in the middle. Do you understand? Or find another conjunction to use. Somebody says in letter writing, can one use capital letter all through? I don't understand. Why would you use capital letter all through? In this my example now, did I use capital letter all through? No, I did not. Please don't use capital letter all through in your letter. Don't use capital letter all through in your essay. There's no need. There's no need. Okay? So please, don't use capital letter all through. You can see the places where I used capital letter. I use capital letter for proper nouns, and I use capital letter at the beginning of a word, of a sentence. That is how you use capital letter when you're writing an essay, or you're writing a report, or you're writing a letter. That's the rule of writing materials like this. Okay? Any other question? Any other question? Does anybody have any other question? So I'm going to wrap it up on that note. If there's no other question, I'm going to share the recording to this. I'll share it in the group and then I'll drop some some letter questions for you to practice with. If you have any question, maybe if a question comes up later, you can drop your question in the WhatsApp group. I'm going to attend to it as soon as I can. So thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.